guys, Matthew here from the Hoodix, bringing you guys another Series 10 video. Of course, today we are going to be looking back at the recent episode of Doctor Who Series 10 and reviewing the return of classic Doctor Who writer Rona Munro and the Eaters of Light. So sit back and enjoy. So then, here we are with another review for Doctor Who Series 10. Today we are going to be talking about the return of classic Doctor Who writer Rona Munro and the Eaters of Light, which is, of course, episode 10 of Series 10.
The penultimate story. The
penultimate story to the finale. And throughout the years, the penultimate episodes either been really good or really bad. I'm kind of thinking of Fear Her, but I'm thinking of Blink, and I'm thinking of Turn Left as well. And then I'm thinking of Closing Time as well. But the Eaters of Light. Who wants to start off with their thoughts on this story then?
I was disappointed.
Yeah, I was quite underwhelmed by it.
And I was so looking forward to it all week. Right after our preview, I was buzzing for it. So looking forward to like the villain, the creature, and like the characters. And I was bored. Saturday night, sat there. All I was doing was looking at the clock saying, is it ending yet? And I was like really bored.
Yeah.
Jacob, are you going to lighten some positivity on this situation?
Well, I wish I could, but I'm kind of with Liv, and it wasn't a bad episode, but
no.
Yeah, like Liv, I found myself kind of looking at my watch, looking at my phone, kind of thinking, I'm not paying full attention to the episode, but I did watch it all the way through properly on the second watch, and I think it did improve a little bit. But I mean, I don't know if it's to do with the weather right now and how the heat is just making us just not concentrate or enjoy the episode. But I don't know. I just didn't enjoy it as much as I would have liked to. Obviously, I mean, especially after, like you said, the preview kind of made me really quite hyped for it, but. Actually, it probably would have been best if my expectations stayed relatively low. What do you think, Matthew?
Yeah, I completely agree, actually. I mean, I felt as if I kind of got myself too excited, hyped it up a little bit too much, and it was a little bit of a letdown in the end. A lot of the things I was looking forward to with this episode didn't deliver and were hardly a part of the episode. Obviously, we'll go deeper into it, but I was expecting it to be scarier. I was expecting it to be a bit more creepier, and I was definitely expecting the villain to be in it more.
Yes.
So yeah, I maybe I got my hopes up too high, but I found it slow. I found it boring. It had good moments. I'm kind of thinking it's a bit similar to my thoughts on Empress of Mars.
Yeah.
Although the more I think about the Empress of Mars, the more I like it. It's that good moments, solid story at heart, but it was just too slow.
It's funny that you say that, because part of my notes is that I actually felt like this episode was really similar to the Empress of Mars, and I feel like I might have liked it more if the episode was in like another series or not next to the Empress of Mars, because I felt like there were quite a lot of similarities between them with these like two sides. So we had the Ice Warriors and the Victorian soldiers, and then we had the Roman soldiers and the Picts or whatever they were. And then, I mean, even things like Bill falling down a hole and being separated from the Doctor and Nardole, it was all kind of quite similar, which kind of made it, I guess, a bit more kind of like, oh, we saw this last week, so.
Yeah, it felt like we were sort of biding our time until the finale comes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sort of thing.
I think our excitement is so high for the finale. We just want it to be the finale already. So we're just kind of like watching it, but inside we are just kind of more excited for the finale, which is kind of understandable. I think everyone would agree.
Well, yeah, I can't lie. The bit I was looking forward to the most about this episode was the next time trailer.
Me too.
I cannot wait to talk about that in our preview. So the Eaters of Light, obviously, where do we want to start, Liv?
Now, the biggest bugbearer for me is that the villain, which in like the creature, like, and in the preview, we were all looking forward to it, and it was something new, and it was hardly in it, and that really disappointed me.
Me too. I thought it had really good potential, and
I
even
did.
the small bits that we did see of it, it looked scary. It like
did.
the motion was scary. The way it killed people and what it left like corpses, that was scary. But I just feel like it was just a bit too underused and focused more on the soldiers, kind of a bit too much for my liking.
And
Yeah,
that's what annoyed me. Yeah, because that Ninth Legion and then the Barbarians, I didn't care for them characters whatsoever. And that's a shame.
yeah, I find myself in the same position. I mean, I really like the look of this villain.
No.
I like it was so different. The way the Eater of Light. It sounds great, and I was kind of hoping that it would keep eating the light to the point where it was like pitch black darkness.
Yeah.
And like that's exactly what
Yeah.
like Jacob was saying. The potential, like what they could have done with this villain.
It was massively there.
Like the monks.
Yeah, like the monks. The potential they could have, these villains have, and it's disappointing and frustrating that they're not really getting the full use of. But I guess that's the hindrance of 45-minute episodes, really, where they're trying to force so much in there. It's
Difficult.
it's almost like something always falls through the cracks, And I do sometimes wish that they would maybe make it 10 episodes a series and make each episode an hour long. But yeah, the villain wasn't in it enough. I think it killed 2 people. There was one good scene where it was at the very beginning when it just taken that first Roman soldier and it was chasing Bill to the
Yeah.
cave.
Yeah.
And I thought that was brilliant because it didn't fully show the villain properly. We just saw little bits of it, so you didn't know where it was. You knew it was behind her, but you couldn't quite see.
Yeah.
And it almost caught her, and I thought, great. And then after that, we didn't see it for absolutely ages.
Yeah. It seemed like it was kind of forgetful that was the actual kind of threat and not anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it started off really well because obviously the Doctor and Nardole and Bill arrive. They go separate ways, which, yeah, it's repetitive, but it led into whatever happened next. And the Doctor and Nardole found all these corpses, and they looked really, really, like, gruesome.
Yeah.
The way the faces were sort of melted into the ground, I thought, oh my God, this creature is destructive. And they obviously both met either side, but like you say, Liv, when they met either side, I didn't really care for the barbarians that much, and I didn't really care for the Roman soldiers. I think the only side character that I can think of was Car. I think she was the only character that I really, really liked.
Remotely.
Yeah, I mean, she was the only character that actually had a bit of development to it, to be honest. What were your thoughts on the barbarians and the Roman soldiers, Jacob? Did you connect with them a little bit more than me? Because I know, speaking for myself, and I think for you as well, Liv, I wasn't really that invested.
No.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, and I feel going back again to the whole kind of 2 sides thing and the Doctor's in the middle, I feel like because it's so repetitive from like literally last week, and it was kind of just difficult to kind of know the 2 sides, and yeah, it just didn't feel. I didn't really feel too invested in the episode, unfortunately. But
Yeah, and there was a scene that actually really it was like a small touch, but it just made me start like screaming at the TV. It was when Bill was telling the Roman soldiers that she's gay.
Oh.
And I was sat there and I was like, we get it.
Yeah.
She's gay. It's why do they keep bringing it up? Why do they keep shoehorning it in? It's not like it's not normal.
Yeah.
It's perfectly normal. Why do they keep bringing it up like it's something special?
Yeah, I know another YouTuber, Lip Manette, I think, she tweeted saying, why don't they just have Bill actually meet a girl that she likes rather than having all these men, and like it seems like every other episode she's saying, oh, I'm gay actually. It's like we know it just feels forced. Like I'm all for being open and confident with yourself and all of that, but I just don't think it's really necessary.
Yeah, what did you... Because you described it to me, Liv, when we were watching it. You said it was almost uncomfortable, didn't you?
It was awkward and uncomfortable, because the series 10 is like, I've really liked Bill.
Bill's been
Yeah.
great.
And the first time in a long time, I've finally been able to connect with a companion. But I know Bill's gay, That's great. There's no problem with that. But it's the fact that they have to keep bringing it up. The first time is fine, yeah, bring it up. But and then all of a sudden, times after, it gets awkward to watch and then so uncomfortable.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I know this is like might be I think a lot of people might disagree with me, but has Bill lost her shine a little bit? Because she's still great. Like, she's still fantastic. I still really love her. I'm not saying that she's turned bad or anything, but I just think that in the first couple of episodes of the series, the thing that I was invested the most in was Bill. It was always Bill, because she was so new, she was just so fresh, and everything she did was like a brand new experience. It was all great, and I don't know why, but ever since Extremis, and maybe when she shot the Doctor, I don't know. I think her character's kind of lost its way a little bit, and she's went from being a standout companion to just another character now, and I'm kind of hoping for her to do something else, maybe develop in a way or expand, because her just making funny lines and continually saying that she's gay, she's not really came anywhere, has she, from the start of the series. Maybe I'm wanting too much from her character. Can you sort of see what I'm saying, Jacob?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, definitely.
It's not that she's bad, it's just that she's just not really went anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know if that's just because we were, like you said, so excited to see her at the start, and it was all different, and now we're just kind of getting used to her, maybe. But I suppose, yeah, I don't know. Obviously, we'll talk about it in the preview, but it did seem like she was a bit more involved in the next time trailer and next week's episode. So
yeah,
fingers crossed that the end of the series will be a good end with Bill. And obviously, we don't even know if she's going to stay on to series 11. So fingers crossed she'll be able to have a bit more of a role and be a bit more, I don't know, important, I guess, in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, but to be fair, she did have some good scenes in this episode, like when she was telling the Roman soldier, I think it was, about the Doctor, saying, you know, he will save you, don't expect you to all survive, but, you know, I trust him with my life, sort of thing. I love that side of her character, and there are some times when she does stand up, like, between the two sides and, you know, stops them from fighting, puts her opinion across.
When she was telling the Doctor, like, that he has to go and guard the vault, and he can't, like, do the job for the soldiers and the Picts. Like, he has to, like, let them do it.
Yeah.
I thought that was a nice scene as well from Bill.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe I'm wanting too much from Bill, but she's still great. She's still absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure something we can all agree on, I'm hoping you agree, Liv, as well, is that Nardole in this episode was also one of the better parts, I think.
Nardole was in this episode saving grace for me.
With his popcorn.
I absolutely loved him. He was so funny. Him, and my favourite scene out of this whole episode was in Bell. So it was Nardole and the Crow. Nardole! It was just so funny. I adored him. I really did love Nardole in this.
Yeah, he was good comic. He was good comic relief. He was funny. That's about it, really.
You don't sound convinced.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think he adds anything necessarily to it, but I think he's good to have a different bit of comedy.
Yeah, he added something to the episode, and he did make me laugh quite a few times, which is always good. But I just kind of thought, comparing this episode to Extremis or Oxygen, I'm kind of thinking, yeah, he was good, he was there, he was funny, and that's that, really.
I disagree.
Yeah.
He didn't play any more of a part in this episode than he did the pilot.
I disagree.
He was just funnier. He was funnier, and that's good, because I used to sigh at his jokes. Now I laugh at them because I think Matt Lucas is fantastic, and I think Nardole's a really funny character now. But he just didn't really do much this week. But he was funny.
He did, to me, do a lot.
Well, yeah, he added a fun, different sort of dimension to the episode, which is always good. He didn't overdo it. He wasn't funny to the point where it was annoying. That was it. It was funny. One person I will say was absolutely phenomenal was 12.
Oh, I love Peter in this episode. just obviously him as a character, but him as an actor as well. It was great performances.
I thought 12 was on fire.
Oh,
I mean,
he
there were
was
some scenes
fantastic.
in this where he was commanding the situation. He was taking charge. He was being stern. He was also being very sarcastic. It really reminded me of the series 8 12th Doctor. You know, when he was confronted
Yeah,
by
the sarcasm.
yeah, confronted by the barbarians, and he just bursts his way out of the group, and he demands to know where his friend is, and then he starts saying that she's a kid and she's got kiddie face paint, and
Got a TV aerial as a weapon.
yeah, I thought 12 was unbelievable in this.
Oh, he was fantastic.
Yeah.
To me, 12 always is, so...
Yeah, he always is. He raises the bar so high for himself, but
I think he stood out in this
yeah,
episode.
he did. He was just he just carried this episode from start to finish for me. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Not much happened really. There was a bit of talking here and there.
Loads of talking.
Loads of talking. I found myself a little bit bored come the half an hour mark, and I was gagging for the episode to kick into gear. Thankfully, it kind of did when the two groups come together. I think that when they come together, that was good. And that's when obviously they had to calm them down and they had to team up. And I think the Doctor had a great scene with them, didn't he? When he was talking to them both on either side, trying to keep peace, and he was screaming like "grow up" to them and stuff like that. I thought that was unbelievable, and it led to the ending. What are your thoughts on the ending, then, Jacob? Because there's some parts of it I really like, and there's some parts of it that how they defeated the villain.
Yeah, with the whole mirror reflection light thingy into the portal of doom thing.
Yeah, unless you can think of anything else we've missed. But to me, apart from the long talking scenes, I can't think of anything else.
No, I can't really.
Well, the ending was alright, I guess. It was just weird how they kind of had to lure it in. But with these like reflections, I thought that was a bit odd. And it looked a bit weird because they were getting these reflections from just these couple of torches, which I thought was a bit like flames, which I thought was a bit odd. But I did like that it wasn't actually the Doctor who ended up doing the actual saving. It was the two kind of armies, as it were, kind of, like you said, bonding together and defeating all those monsters on their own. But I do feel like, actually Missy pointed this out at the end, is that it's not very nice having these armies like go into this portal and basically just slaughtering these Eater of Light things when they are not actually doing anything, apart from when they actually enter our world. They don't actually seem to be threatening until they're actually in our world. So I don't know if that was the right necessarily decision to actually go into their world and kill them instead of just guarding the gate, as they called it.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. To be honest, I think they'd have probably been massacred instantly anyway. I mean, there's
probably
them beasts apparently kill 5,000 soldiers or whatever at a time. That they killed the entire 9th Legion.
And that was just one of them. And then
yeah,
they've got all of those in there, and there's only like a maximum of 10 of those people all going in there to defeat them. I don't really see realistically how that works.
No, they wouldn't have got very far. But I did like the idea of how the Doctor was wanting to do it himself, and Bill was sort of, holding him back, saying you've got other responsibilities, sort of thing. And it was really nice to see the two sides team up at the end and sacrifice themselves, because, like we've said with some other episodes, like Knock Knock, it's been a little bit of an underwhelming ending when everyone survives, hip hip hooray. Both sides could have easily teamed up and walked off into the sunset, but of course, Rona Munro also weaved it into non-fiction, and this is how the Roman 9th Legion did disappear. So I kind of like the ending. It was sad in a way, and just by them walking into the portal or whatever and knowing that they're pretty much dead.
It was a satisfying ending.
Yeah, that made me care about the characters more in that 30 seconds than I ever did for the rest of the episode. But at the same time, the villain was sort of defeated a little bit easily. I mean, it was almost like they were trying to tame a bull back into its cage or whatever. You know what I mean? It ran around for a little bit. It killed one or two people. Now it's time to go back in your cage, sort of thing. And it was a little bit. Yeah, I just wish we'd gotten more from the villain. I really do.
Yeah,
Um,
I noticed a couple of plot holes, and I know people are probably going to say that I'm nitpicking, but like when the Doctor was telling Bill how to control the TARDIS, when Nardole was still there and he can fly the TARDIS, so why does the Doctor have to tell Bill how to fly it? That's something I didn't quite get. Another thing
Yeah.
is that I didn't know the TARDIS translator thing worked on like everyone. Like I don't get where that boundary stops because they discovered that everyone was speaking English so that everyone could understand each other. But I always was under the impression it was only people who had actually been in the TARDIS that it would have the effect on. But I don't know if you feel the same way or if it's just me being nitpicky.
well, I saw some like tweets and stuff like the reaction to the episode, and I saw a few people mention that, and I was a bit like I didn't really get it at first, and then when I rewatched it, I mean it's nothing to like really get angry about, but it is some. I mean it is a massive part of the show's sort of continuity. You know, this is
Yeah.
it's the reason as to why they can land on any planet and they can still speak a language we understand. I mean, I always thought that it was just the people in the TARDIS that could just speak any language really, and
Yeah.
the other people could just understand them. So, I mean, were the barbarians just speaking normal Scottish, or like normal English, and were the Romans speaking Latin? I can't
Yeah.
quite remember the
I
languages,
think
but
the Picts, like whatever they're called, they're speaking Gaelic or some sort of.
yeah. So I would have thought that when Bill speaks to them, they would understand her in Gaelic or whatever, and then when she turns around and speaks to the Romans, they would understand her in Latin. I didn't think that, like you say, they could all understand each other. But hey ho. Then we have the ending with Missy, because we were all theorising how Missy would be in this episode, and it was like other episodes. She was in the end, in the TARDIS. I did like how they mentioned that she was the one that got them home from Mars.
Yeah.
Still want to know why the TARDIS just decided to get up and bugger off in the first place.
Me too.
That's something we're just never going to find out. But I kind of like the scenes with Missy at the end.
Me too.
I did.
I want to know what Liv thought because I know Liv's been rather critical of Missy's appearances so far. So, Liv, what did you think of Missy's appearance in this episode?
I didn't like it.
Oh no.
Why?
I wanted Missy to be in the beginning. Like, I would have rather this episode started with them flying to where they were, like Aberdeen, Scotland, into there, and then and then all that Missy scenes in Bell, so could have been in the beginning, not the end.
I thought it worked in the end because it led into the next episode.
Yeah, I really liked
Perfectly.
it actually. I
It
thought
led
it was one of Missy's
perfectly,
best
yeah.
appearances.
The thing with Missy, with me, is I can't see her going anywhere for me. So when the writers keep placing her randomly in episodes,
It's not random though.
and it grinds me down because the thing
Oh,
with
no.
Missy is I think Missy deserves a full episode in series 10. I
Well.
really do.
That's next week, hopefully.
Well, yes, hopefully it is, but the thing with Missy is I'm disappointed.
I'm liking what they're doing. I have to disagree.
too.
I think they've found a degree of consistency in what they're trying to do. I mean, obviously the payoff could be awful, and we could be absolutely, we could be massively annoyed at the end of it. Obviously the Extremist's appearance was very, very weird, but since when was it? End of Light? Was it the end of the Lie of the Land? Well, she was in Lie of the Land briefly. That again didn't make sense. But end of Empress of Mars, and then the end of this, it sort of fit together nicely leading into next week.
Yeah.
And I did like the scenes with her when the Doctor is chatting to her about being friends again. I mean, part of me thought, is the Doctor really going to let her be friends that easily? But
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm kind of thinking it would make his life a whole lot easier
Yeah.
if him and Missy could just sort of get along.
And I tell you what one of the bits that I did like about that with Missy is that even the Doctor, because we're meant to be believing that Miss is becoming, good again, which I am starting to buy, but even the Doctor, even if it does turn out to be true, even the Doctor, I like how the Doctor isn't going straight in there and just believing it. He's still quite critical, and he's a bit like, He's not 100% confident that she is actually turning good.
Yeah, exactly.
But
so
you can tell that he wants her to be.
He does, yeah, of course. And it's putting us viewers in a difficult position because we now don't know if we should believe her because the Doctor doesn't really know if he believes her. But at the same time, we're sort of stuck in that dilemma. Do we want her to be the evil big bad villain, or do we want her to turn good? And obviously, with John Sims Master coming into it, that's just going to throw everything into a whole frenzy. But I like the end with the Missy. I think that was another good scene, and yeah, led perfectly into next week's, which I cannot wait for. Oh, the preview. The preview is going to be good. So, anything else worth mentioning? I think I saw a few tweets again moaning about the editing direction. I mean, I don't look deeply into this. I know you probably do a little bit more, Jacob, but...
Well, I actually thought, well, especially the direction and the music, especially in this episode, I thought really stood out and was actually quite good compared to some of the
music
other
did.
episodes.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, I think it's a good thing when the direction doesn't stand out, because if it stands out, it's usually because it's not good.
Yeah, it wasn't. We didn't necessarily think, oh wow, that shot's amazing, but I didn't. Especially with the scene in the forest that we mentioned earlier with the monster chasing Bill, I thought that was really well shot.
Yeah, I just wish they'd had more scenes like that again.
Yeah, it wasn't half as dark as I expected it to be.
Yeah, they could have taken half the time off these long talkative scenes and put it into a good chase scene through the forest with the... Because, really, did the Doctor and this villain have a proper confrontational scene?
Nope.
No.
They didn't really, did they? It just got passed him by, and the Doctor's always got to meet a villain. He's got to know what it's all about, and it does feel like a completely missed opportunity. I mean, the 45 minutes of this episode, it felt a lot longer watching it, but it also felt a lot shorter because it feels like they could have done so much more with it. But nevertheless, do we want to move on to our conclusions?
Sure.
First, can I just say, why the hell were the crows in it?
Ooh,
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Why were they speaking?
They made no sense. It was random. What did the crows add to the episode?
I don't know why they. I guess they just
Don't
wanted
know.
us to believe that all the crows in modern day are just saying "car" because of that one girl who was in the Pix tribe. But I don't know. It just seemed a bit weird. But then again, it did make for some funny scenes, like we said with Nardole.
Yeah,
So,
it did.
I don't know.
And it had no connection to Face the Raven whatsoever,
Thank God.
No, it didn't.
which I'm glad
Phew.
about. Also, quickly worth mentioning before we finish, the viewing figures.
Oh dear.
Not good.
Dear.
Now, I'd hate to put a negative spin on things because, well, despite us being apparently the most negative channel in the history of anything ever,
Who haters?
the Who haters.
haters.
I do just want to mention the overnight figures because last week they were low. I think they'd reached a new low last week, and that was understandable due to the Manchester One Life concert and the Britain's Got Talent and all that. The final being pretty much, I think it was on the same time.
It was, I think, yeah.
So, I took them viewing figures with a pinch of salt because I thought, yeah, it's Britain's Got Talent, it's a final. We're never going to compete with that. But Doctor Who was on a little bit earlier this week, but it didn't, from what I could tell, compete with anything important.
No.
And I think it got the lowest viewing figures in its history, about
2.89.
Yeah.
2.89 million.
Yeah.
That
I
is
don't,
really below and bad.
I mean,
That is shocking.
I don't know if it's because of the British weather and everyone's just trying to enjoy this rarity of having sunshine, and also the fact that it was so early this week. Maybe that added to it as well.
yeah, I think it's probably best to look on like the overall
Yeah.
figures.
Yeah.
But it's something that I just couldn't help but ignore. Well, couldn't help but acknowledge. Sorry, I couldn't not ignore it because, yeah, it was a bit worrying.
It's
But
not great.
we'll see how it goes, and if not, then if it continues, especially into the finale, then a video will definitely have to be made.
And
on
also, one final thing, the child actors that briefly featured at the start of the episode, I don't know, but I didn't like them.
I
And
didn't.
I don't know why
Random.
Doctor Who has to write in a certain amount of child actors. It seems like every every series because they're not convincing, and it didn't even necessarily add anything to the episode at all.
Yeah,
So,
I thought that maybe the story would come back round to the kids at the end or something, but it kind of didn't.
no, it's just a bit
So,
weird.
but yeah, it set up the episode nicely, I guess, but it didn't really have any meaning in the end.
And that could have been
So-
a scene with another chase or something. But yeah.
It could have, yeah, it could have been a chase scene through the forest. It could have had the Eater of Light brutally murdering someone and then the credits roll. Again, they could have got the balance a little bit. It could have got a better balance and could have made more of the time they had instead of putting into other stuff. Right. Conclusions. Who wants to go first?
Well, I always seem to go first, so did someone else
Because
different?
you're,
Matthew, why don't you go first?
cause
Yeah,
you're the
Matthew.
lady. You're the
You go
lady,
first.
that's why.
Go on, Matthew, go first.
Oh, I'll go first. Okay, for me, The Eaters of Light, very much like Empress of Mars, was a solid story that never really got out of second gear. It had good moments, but was really slow in parts. I feel as if I got my hopes up too much for this episode, as most parts that I was looking forward to ended up being disappointing. The setting wasn't as dark or as creepy as I'd hoped, and the beast was incredibly underused. I thought Nardole was funny, but felt nothing more than comic relief, and Bill seems to have lost the shine that she had in earlier stories, but I still think she was fantastic. 12, though, I thought was absolutely incredible. He was firm, harsh, sarcastic, and commanding, taking complete control of the situation. I didn't really care for the side characters too much, but Car was the standout, and I loved how they stood together and sacrificed themselves at the end. For me, The Eaters of Light was another solid episode, but it didn't wow me in any way. It just felt more disappointing on first viewing, mostly due to the fact that I raised my expectations so high. And like I said, I just wish they'd have maybe balanced out a bit better, had more of the villain, and less of the talkative scenes, had a bit more action. So yeah, like last week, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 again. I think a rewatch did it justice. I did enjoy it a lot more. I think it's not a bad story, it's not a poor story, it's just a little bit disappointing for what could have been.
Liv?
Okay, I'll go first now.
The big bad biggity bad Jacob shall go last.
My conclusion is I definitely think that, and so I put my expectations very high for this episode, and it never really paid off. The villain, or what was the massive disappointment for me, because I loved it. It was so creepy, but so massively underused, and that's just something that I can't shake off. The side characters I didn't care for one bit. The story was good, but the thing was, there was too many slown out, boring talking scenes that were just doing my head in. Nardole was a saving grace for me in this episode. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. The Doctor is also good, but Bill, I was kind of disappointed by her. I also made a note that this episode, I felt, so would have suited the classic Who sort of build format to it. But overall, disappointed, and I will rate it a 5 out of 10.
Interesting. Oh.
Interesting point about the classic, because yeah, it was written by a classic Who writer, and it did feel very classic Who. And one thing I was saying after we watched it was, if this story was in the classic era, would we have liked it more?
We might have.
Are we
Possibly,
spoiled?
especially if it had more time to kind of
Yeah,
develop it more. I think it does have a lot of potential.
yeah. Are we spoilt by the extravagant CGI that we have nowadays, or is it the fact
Well,
that the show's structure
extravagant.
now? Well, yeah, I wouldn't go as far as to say extravagant, but yeah, is it the fact that we have 45 minutes a week? It restricts episodes like this, which with another 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I think could be great.
Yeah.
So yeah, it felt very classic, but yeah, Jacob.
Well, The Eaters of Light was a relatively solid story with a monster that looks great, but as Matthew never said, I feel like was a bit too underused, and I would have liked to see more of it. However, I can only think of how similar it was to The Empress of Mars, and how I also think that I would have enjoyed the story more if it was in another series and separate and had its own kind of time to shine. I do admit that I did find the episode quite boring and found myself checking my phone on the first watch. But on the second viewing, I did seem to enjoy it more, but maybe this heat and everything that's going on is maybe affecting our concentration, and I just can't really seem to pay attention to this episode. The direction and music in this episode were impressive, as were the costumes for both the Roman soldiers and the Picts. I thought that was quite a standout feature of the episode. And once again, I surprised myself in that Nardo was actually one of the better parts of this episode with his comedic lines, as well as obviously the performance by Peter Capaldi as the Doctor. I thought he had some really good scenes. But yeah, I would agree with you, Matthew, that actually Bill probably didn't really have much of a part in this episode. So I'm hoping that she will in the finale. And finally, Mrs. Scene in the TARDIS at the end felt more relevant than the previous appearances that we've had. And I'm starting to like how this story is going in terms of the plot for the finale. So, all in all, I think I'm going to go in the middle of both of you and say 5.5 out of 10. Because I don't think it deserves a 5, but I can't bring myself to give it a 6.
Interesting. So we're all pretty much in the same sort of, it's like average, but I think the potential,
it's there.
Gives it a little push. Yeah.
And like we say, like and before everyone jumps on board and says we're negative, we're not being negative. We're just being honest, and I'm stating this here and now that this story wasn't a bad story.
It wasn't bad at all.
Nope.
It was a good story. It was solid, but yeah, it's just got too many flaws for me to give it better than average rating. But even an average rating of 5 and 6 is not bad all in all, is it?
It isn't bad at all.
No, to be fair, we could give an episode a 10 out of 10 and people would still mock us for hating it.
They probably would.
I agree with you though, Jake. I think, I know it's something that you wouldn't expect, but I think the placement of the episode might have affected it. The fact that last week we had a slightly, sort of similar in template, sort of, it had the sort of similar sort of mechanics and stuff, how the episode was built and stuff like that. If this was to maybe have followed Smile or been between Oxygen and Knock Knock, maybe it would have fit in a bit more. Maybe they could have, instead of having Extremis, Lie of the Land and Pyramid at the End of the World back to back, maybe they could have stuck it in the middle of one of them. Or maybe they could have just missed out one of them three entirely.
Yeah.
And made it a two-parter. Who knows? But yes, that's our review of The Eaters of Light. Like Empress of Mars, solid and good, just didn't really excel to that next level. But The Empress of Mars, to be fair, the more I've thought about it, the more I've liked it, so it could grow on me. Next week, of course, it all kicks off, because we are at the finale. Next week, we'll be bringing you our preview of World Enough and Time.
Weird title.
Still have no idea how that title's going to play in the episode.
Weird. But
we're going to be talking 12th Doctor, Bill, Nardole, Missy, Mundasian Cybermen, and John Sim.
So excited. It's going to be great.
Oh, and of course, one character is apparently going to die. I'll believe that when I see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be back for our preview of the next episode of Missy Who with World Enough and Time next week. But until then, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. So then guys, there you have it, our review of The Eaters of Light. Do like this video if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe to The Who Addicts for all the remaining reviews and previews to come for Doctor Who Series 10, and do comment in the section below your thoughts on the return of Rona Munro, and if you think it was a slightly disappointing story, or if you think it was one of the standouts for Series 10. And as always, stay updated for everything The Who Addicts by visiting our website and finding all of our social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Snapchat. They are the perfect places to stay updated on everything The Who Addicts as Series 10 comes to an end. And of course, we'll be back next week for possibly the most exciting preview yet, where me, Liv and Jacob will be talking Missy, the Master, John Sim, Mundasian Cybermen, Someone's Gonna Die, it's the finale, World Enough and Time. What the hell does that title even mean? It's going to be fun, but until then, take care and we'll see you next week.